I have very strong views and they are not common, but I also think that I don't want to live a common life and so that I cannot have common views. A lot of people used to get on me about like, you need more work-life balance, like blah, 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 blah. I just like, you have one life and they are your terms and no one else's terms. And we optimize typically for the things that we enjoy doing. And like, if you have more stimulus from working than you do from not working, then like work. And then if you feel like at some point you have traded off something that you don't want to trade off for, then you can adjust. I mean, everybody wants to, they're like, man, do something you love and you'll never work another day in your life. But like, it's just because everyone has this really poor definition of work. But like, if you have accomplished that, which obviously you have, you're just living. So I'll rewind something really quickly, which is like 2021, I did nothing. I owned all the companies, pounded out a lot of cash flow, and I did nothing. And it was a very miserable year for me because I tried to spend the money that I was making and I couldn't. Like, it was just not even really a possibility. And so like, I got into a place of like, why am I even doing this? Like, what's the point? Like, I'll never even be able to spend this money that I have. Why have I been doing all this stuff? And in starting acquisition.com, or at least making that the sole focus now again, and being able to build all the infrastructure, you know, hire the teams and all the stuff that we're doing on that side of the business, like I have so much joy getting back into the game because I feel like I've been kind of like in a super high leverage position for like an extended period of time, that I exited the business because I thought that that was what the next natural step was supposed to be, which is like you go from CEO to owning it as a shareholder or board of directors, whatever. And that is very much what happened. But I realized that for me, at least, it's like I work to create options, not to not work. So a lot of people like, they work really hard to not have to work later. It's like, no, it's like I work to have the option to work. And so I can choose to work. And that choice is the freedom that I have. And so like, if I'm choosing with the optionality that I have to work, then that is exactly what I want to do. Just being on the other side of it, of like going to the, like, there's literally no way I can spend this money for the rest of my life mountaintop. Like, the only thing that I wanted to do was the thing that got me here, which is like, I love working. And so it's the thing that I find meaningful.
My only thought to that is like, I think that marriage plays a big part in my life, and I think marriage is a compromise. My wife doesn't like it when I work as much, and Graham's girlfriend, Macy, is similar. And I think that there's a compromise there where, yes, Graham, if all he wants to do is work, that's great, and he can work and work and work. But I think that a successful marriage is truly a compromise.
Like, I don't believe that marriage is compromise. What I'm going to say, and I have very strong views and they are not common, but I also think that I don't want to live a common life and so that I cannot have common views. Like, I've only seen two dynamics that work in relationships over like an extended period of time. One is kind of the, we're in it together. And the other is like the, you know, cheerleader and quarterback cheering you on. But the thing is like, I can speak a lot to the, you know, we're in the game together. For me, I know personally, like I had two very long relationships that were cheerleader dynamics. And to me, I could not imagine living life that way, having now lived what I live now. Because like, there's a certain amount of shared respect that you never get with somebody who does not know what it's like to be in the battlefield or in the arena. And if I'm like, I need to work for the next 3 days and like write 5 book chapters, there's not a discussion. It's like, of course, do your thing. There's no like, I can't believe you're like, And to the flip side, in the cheerleader dynamic, a cheerleader who's really rooting for the team doesn't ask the quarterback to come out when the game's on the line. And so I think that a lot of people are running in what they consider to be cheerleader dynamics, but they are inverted dynamics. They're actually sabotaging the game. I think that it's like, in that dynamic, it's harder, in my opinion, to do the cheerleader quarterback because you have to have a very aligned mission and goals of like the relationship. It's easier to do that in the dynamic that you're working together because it's so clearly stated with the mission and the goals of like, this is where I want to go and this is how I want to get there, and like, do you want to come with me? And then you're very much operating on this shared sense of reality. And it also becomes difficult for entrepreneurs, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure you've seen plenty of people get divorces as they get older and whatnot, is that like, if you're like, all right, this will be interesting. So typically when people become attracted, so Esther Perel, if you've heard of her, she's really interesting, like relationship person. She's like one of the top TED Talks on it. There's a thing, it's called Mating in Captivity is her book. But in the beginning, you have kind of this mystery because you don't know each other, and that's what creates like the excitement, right? As you get to know each other over time, you swing like from mystery to familiarity, right? You get a little bit more security, you get to know each other better, and it feels like more and more amazing. And so what you do is you just keep trying to do that. Right? But what ends up happening is that you overcorrect and then you become siblings. And then it's like, well, that's not good. And so it's not a problem to be solved, but a dichotomy to be managed in terms of like, how much space do you create versus how much familiarity. What happens when people, like entrepreneurs specifically, like have their business and they have the wife, they spend more time at the beginning, and all of a sudden they don't spend as much time together, and then they grow apart because they're also exposed to different stimuli. So you adapt to the stimuli that you have and you grow apart. On the flip side, if you're in my scenario where we're like doing the same thing together, these couples make 5 times more money than any of the other versions that I just said. But you can become too familiar and then you just become siblings. So for us, we actually create more space. So it's like we try to work on separate sides of the house. We don't attend the same meetings. So like at the end of the day, we can sit down at dinner and be like, how was your day? And she can tell me something rather than me saying like, oh, I was there, I know. And so the happiest couples are actually couples that both have careers that are not necessarily together, because they have a shared goal in terms of this is what we want to do. They have shared values in terms of how they want to get there, and they respect one another and they respect each other's goals, and then they walk kind of in parallel. And so for me, it was actually just interesting seeing the different dynamics and like how we had to correct in the beginning. Like we spent all day every day together and the business was small. So it was like she was there and I was here and we worked out together and we ate together, and we did that for like 2 years. And I was like, maybe I'll sit on different meetings than you.
Yeah.
But like seeing the level of like commitment and loyalty that you get from that, and I don't know, I have strong beliefs around that, and I think that you don't have to compromise anything if you don't want to.